Do not watch this unless you want to fully awaken. My name is Adrienne Grace. I'm an intuitive and a coach, and today I want to talk about waking up to who you truly are and the illusions of the ego. So, what is the ego? The ego is your belief in separation, the belief that you are separate than everyone and everything on this planet. Now, let's talk about when you're born. When a being is born into this earthly realm, they are conditioned, and they're conditioned by their parents. And I'm not just talking about you are conditioned, I'm talking about your parents were conditioned, and their parents, and their parents, and their parents. And this goes back thousands and thousands of years of this conditioning. Now, as babies, we are completely dependent on our parents for survival. We're dependent on them to feed us, to shelter us, to give us love, and all the things that we need. And what happens is they want us to be a certain way. They were taught to be a certain way, and now they're teaching you to be a certain way. And we have to adapt to that because we need their approval, we need their love, we need them for survival. And so we start adapting who we are based on these concepts. So let me just give you an example of this. So from a young age, you might think that, or have been told that, being angry or being violent is not acceptable. And you saw that when you did get angry and you did get violent, maybe you got yelled at, maybe you got punished, maybe you got attention and affection withheld. And so you said, oh, okay, I'm not that. I'm not angry. I'm not violent. Let's push that down and not be those things. Now, what happens when we push that thing down, it doesn't just not go anywhere. It goes into our subconscious, and it goes into the collective subconscious. And then in the collective subconscious, anything that's put down there actually manifests. And so those things actually then manifest outside of ourselves. And what happens is when we see other people that are violent and angry, instead of realizing that it's us and another aspect of us and it's a projection of us, and trying to integrate that healthfully, what do? We point the finger and say, oh, they're that, and I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that. And so we have all these concepts that we believe I am not and I am. And we then live our lives trying to push away the things that we don't think that we are and affirm the things that we do think that we are. And underneath all of this is we're mentally kind of scheming almost to do things that are aligned with who we believe ourselves to be and not aligned with things that are not who we believe ourselves to be. So even if you feel angry in public, you wouldn't probably yell and scream. You probably wouldn't get violent in the grocery store because you don't want to be judged. You don't want to be seen as that, right? Because that would totally destroy your sense of self. That would actually be an ego death. If you went to the grocery store and you got angry and started throwing cereal boxes everywhere, that would be a great way to experience an ego death. Because the ego is really just your sense of self. It's the belief in separation. And if you boil down who you believe yourself to be, it is nothing but a conglomeration of mental concepts, right? So take me for example. I am a woman. I am 42. I am American. I am a coach. All of these things are labels. They're putting me in a box. They're not even like real tangible things. They're reducing me to labels. And even if I were to describe my personality, I would say something like, oh, I'm an upbeat person. I'm outgoing. I'm joyful, I'm spiritual, right? And there would be all these concepts that I believe myself to be. And I would never include things that I don't want to be, right? I would never say like, oh, I'm an angry person and I'm a shameful person and all of these things, right? Because those are things that I was taught not to be. So we're walking around basically being like, I am that, but I'm not that. I am that, but I'm not that. And the more we point our finger outwards, the more there's this separation and division going on between us and everybody in the world. And I believe that this is what is going on today, that there's this huge eruption right now because we have suppressed so much in the collective consciousness, in the collective psyche, and it's all manifesting outside of us, and nobody wants to reclaim these parts of themselves. So everybody's pointing the finger, being like, I'm not that, I'm not that, and judging these things outside of us instead of integrating them. But that is where we're going to have to head. We're going to have to integrate these parts of us. It's okay to be angry. We actually came here to experience the full range of emotions. And there are healthy ways to experience anger. There are healthy ways to experience violence, right? You can go to one of those rage rooms, right? There's those rooms where you like are given a baseball bat, and you get smash a TV and smash a computer and do all these things, right? That's a healthy outlet for rage and for anger. The more we put a lid on these things, the more that we suppress them, like the more dangerous it actually is, because it comes out in these like sneakier, shadier ways. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you probably know somebody or knew somebody at some point in your life who was an angry drunk. And it's probably because they've suppressed so much anger within them that when they are drunk, with, you know, you have a few drinks in you, your inhibitions loosen a little bit, and then they allow themselves to be that, right? And again, then we probably judge them, oh, they're an angry drunk, because we're also probably somewhat doing the same thing, but theirs is just coming out in a different way. Anyway, I digress, but this is a time for integration. And if humanity is going to ascend, we need to realize that we are everything. You are everything. Whatever qualities that you hate in somebody else, you are those things. And I'm sorry to tell you that. But the more you start to reclaim them and realize that like there's power actually in claiming those things, because that's where the fullness is. That's where you can feel into that wholeness. You are the one being experiencing itself as just one perspective. And the more you can look at things outside of yourself and instead of judging them, use them as pointers to look within, to see where you're not owning something within yourself. There truly is so much power in this because there's so much energy, there's so much life force tied up in suppressing these things that you don't think that you are. Now, I was shown this very clearly during a psychedelic experience where everything that I had known about Adrian just completely melted away, and I had no choice just to surrender and let it all go, which was so scary. It felt like a death, and it was a death in some ways because it was an ego death. And I saw how so much of what I do is managing how I'm seen in the world. Because how I'm seen in the world is then how I get my sense of self. And so unconsciously, I'm always like managing, how I look, how I present myself, how I speak, what I'm doing, what I'm striving for, because I want to be seen and perceived in a certain way. This gives me my sense of self. And the more I don't own the things about me that are some of these things like anger, like violence, the more I suppress them, the more they do come out in different ways. And the more I'm judging other people for being those things. And I really saw this so clearly. And I actually ended up going into like a complete laughing fit where I was just cracking up of the hilarity of it. Because once you see this, it really is the cosmic joke that it's all us, it's all you. I'm talking to you, you're talking to you. It's just one being. And there's a specific reason why you're even watching this exact video right now, right? Because you drew it to you, because it's just the one being calling things into itself. And so it's time that we wake up to this, and it's time to wake up and realize that we truly are all connected, that we can hear about oneness and unity, but it truly is real. And the more that we hurt other people, like, we're hurting ourselves, because it is just one being. I mean, you can think of it as like a tree. If you think about a tree has all these different branches. And if two branches were to look at each other because they were facing this way, they'll think that they're separate. And maybe they're looking at the other one, judging it, and wanting to like pull it off or do something mean to it. But it's actually all part of the same tree. And if it hurts that other branch, it's hurting the whole. And so this is really what I saw. And I saw too about how love truly is the underlying energy that binds everything together and is going to help us bring in a new earth. That once you understand these things, once you understand that somebody who's acting out in anger and in violence is doing it for love, they're doing it for love. That was what they were taught. They're in so much separation. They were taught to be a certain way, and they came up with their own conditioning and their own coping mechanisms to exist in this reality. And once you start seeing that, you can have compassion for them and love for them, and just see that what they're doing is a cry for love and is a cry for attention. And that's okay. Right? They're just going about it, again, by not claiming it, by not realizing the truth of what's really going on. It's coming out in these different ways. And so I want you to really start seeing yourself and seeing all aspects of yourself and loving every single aspect of it. And I truly believe that this is why we're here, is to just discover more and more things about ourselves to love. And that's it. So there's no problems to be solved. Life is a dance, and there is a dance that's going on with everyone and everything right now. This one being experiencing the whole world, this whole reality, because it's fun, because it is actually fun, and because it knew that it was doing this whole game with itself. Could it awaken? Could it play this hide and seek with itself, not realizing that we are that? And this whole outer world, this whole physical reality is just a distraction. It's a distraction from ourselves. Because once we start going in, once we start turning our attention and our consciousness inward, we start going into that oneness. We start going into that unity. And that is beautiful. That's when you really can sense yourself as connected to everyone and everything. So that is my invitation to you today, is to get quiet, turn your attention inward, and start to see if you can experience that interconnectedness. Now, when you do this, there's layers of mind to get to before you can go into that wholeness and into that unity. And part of that is doing shadow work, realizing that the parts of you that you're suppressing and that you're hiding and that you're not fully owning are actually keeping you from experiencing that oneness. So think about the things that really trigger you. What in the world right now is really triggering you, or who in the world is really triggering you? If it's a friend, is it a political figure? What is it, right? And what is it about them that really is bothering you? And do some journaling on this, and then see those traits where you are the same thing. I love the work by Byron Katie, and she has such a beautiful process for doing this and really seeing that you're doing the same things that you're judging somebody else for. So you can head over to her website. She does Zooms every single week to walk people through the process. She has books on it. Byron Katie, the work, I highly, highly recommend it. It's really a beautiful and gentle way to experience an ego death, experience that you're doing these same things that you're pointing the finger outward of. But let's just go back to these layers of mind for a moment. So we have our conscious mind, and that's obviously you're conscious right now listening to this video. And then we have our personal subconscious mind. And these are where our personal memories and data is stored. And then from there, there's the collective unconscious. And this is where everything that everyone is experiencing is stored. Everything that everybody is suppressing is also stored in this. And then from there, after that, you have the oneness. So this is really what I see, is that when people do meditation or psychedelic experiences, they often get caught in either their personal subconscious or the collective subconscious, and maybe they see trauma come up or they see something come up, and it might not even necessarily be theirs, but it's just kind of presenting itself that way because of what's going on. It's in the collective maybe, and maybe you're just experiencing it as something personal, but it's not truly yours. And then you get really attached to it. And you're like, oh my God, that's terrible. That's why I am this way. And oh gosh, now I have to deal with this and blah, blah, blah. And you get caught up in that, and you start creating stories around what you're seeing in your personal subconscious and the collective subconscious. But what if you can just totally surrender and open up to those things when those things come up, and open and release and let go, and just focus on the sensations in your body and open up, and that's when you can go and experience the oneness. This has happened to me in psychedelic experiences and also at a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat. I have a video on it if you want to go take a look at that. Where I had this beautiful experience where I was able to completely surrender and drop into that oneness and drop into that unity place. And I realized in that place that everything is me, not just people, but like Dr. Joe is me, the mountains are me, everything is me. And when I say me, I don't mean Adrian, I mean the being underneath us. And the thing is too, when I got to that place, sometimes it almost can feel a little bit of a trap, because I can see then my patterns and the things that I'm doing, right? Like I said, all these things that I'm doing to manage myself in the world. And that can be a little alarming, right? It's like, oh shit, like, what am I doing? Like, and it almost feels like, okay, like I'm stuck in this character, but actually, we don't want, that's another form of ego if you start making your character a personal problem, right? So what you want to do is just realize like, oh, it's part of the dance, it's part of the play. Like, okay, let me just recognize when those patterns are coming up, and I don't have to listen to the mind, and I don't have to do what it tells me to do. I can just really experience anything I want, and that is why we're here, to experience anything that our heart desires, because it would be freaking fun, and that's it, right? We don't want to experience something just because, oh, I don't feel good enough as I am, but if I finally get that, then I'll feel good enough. And we want to be careful that those unconscious patterns aren't running our lives, right? And we want to just come from this pure place of just desire, because it would be really fun to experience these things. And that's it. And I really saw too, and I really see this in other people, is that sometimes we have these desires, but there's so much underneath that says, I can't do that. I'll never be that. That's just not possible for me. And it could be very subconscious, but that's what keeps you in the way of actually experiencing something. So how could you fully move forward with something that you want to do in a way that shows like, I know that I can do this. I know with every cell in my body that I can do this, because anything's possible, because I'm the one being, and whatever I want to experience, I can experience. So that's the invitation, is to go into meditation, find this place of oneness, do some shadow work, and then truly claim your desires and move forward towards them with your whole heart, with your whole body, with every cell, knowing that you came here to experience whatever it is you want to experience. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for staying here and watching. I appreciate you being here, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more.